Hollywood feuds are as old as Hollywood itself. We've witnessed countless clashes of egos and creative differences erupt into public spectacles. But some rumored tensions remain more subtly whispered, more intriguing for their quiet intensity. Think Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman. Two icons, two titans of cinema. You'd imagine them as kindred spirits, a brotherhood forged in the fires of Hollywood's golden age. But behind the granite facades, beneath the stoic gazes and the accolades, lay a complex relationship, a subtle friction, and years of an almost palpable silence. Now, at 94, Clint Eastwood is finally breaking that silence, hinting at the undercurrents that defined his dynamic with the late Gene Hackman. What did Clint reveal after all these years? And why now, after decades of quietude, is he choosing to speak? Especially in the shadow of a shocking tragedy that unfolded in Santa Fe, where Hackman and his wife were found unresponsive in their home. Gene Hackman. The name itself evokes a certain kind of cinematic gravitas. Tough, commanding, effortlessly charismatic. He wasn't just an actor, he was a force of nature. He shaped an era of filmmaking, embodying characters that were etched into the collective consciousness. Whether he was the hardened detective in The French Connection, the morally ambiguous surveillance expert in The Conversation, or the grizzled cowboy in Unforgiven, Hackman delivered performances that resonated with a raw, unforgettable power. Then, seemingly out of the blue, he walked away. No grand farewell tour, no tearful press conferences, no long-winded explanations. Just a quiet, definitive exit from the spotlight. And now, decades later, a whisper from Clint Eastwood has broken the silence. A seemingly innocuous remark, yet one that has sent ripples through Hollywood, sparking renewed interest in the enigmatic Hackman and the unspoken dynamics between these two screen legends. What did Clint reveal? And how do his words intertwine with the unsettling mystery surrounding Hackman's final days? The shocking tragedy that befell him and his wife in their Santa Fe home. To understand the weight of Eastwood's words, we must first rewind to the chilling events of late February 2025. February 26, 2025. A date that began like any other, yet would soon become shrouded in an unsettling mystery. A maintenance worker, tasked with routine upkeep on Gene Hackman's Santa Fe property, grew increasingly concerned. He hadn't heard from Hackman or his wife, Betsy Arakawa, in 2 weeks. A silence that felt heavy, unnatural. Initially, it seemed a simple miscommunication, perhaps a quiet getaway, a temporary escape from the world. But a nagging unease persisted. Something felt amiss. Driven by a growing premonition, the worker contacted security, initiating a chain of events that would unravel a deeply unsettling scene. No one could have anticipated the grim tableau that awaited them. Peering through a window, the maintenance worker saw something inside the secluded home that made his stomach churn. A chilling stillness, an unsettling silence. Something profoundly wrong. He immediately alerted authorities, setting in motion a somber investigation. When Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department deputies arrived, the reality was even more somber, more perplexing than initially imagined. Gene Hackman was discovered near the foyer, still unresponsive. Betsy lay in the bathroom, equally lifeless. Even one of their beloved dogs was found unresponsive, adding another layer of heartbreaking bewilderment to the scene. Prescription medications, common for managing age-related health issues, were scattered nearby. Nothing overtly suspicious, nothing immediately alarming, yet enough to raise a multitude of questions. The initial assumption, the most logical explanation, was carbon monoxide poisoning. It seemed plausible, a silent, invisible killer. But as investigators delved deeper, as forensic reports trickled in, that initial theory began to crumble, to lose its firm footing. Carbon monoxide was ruled out. Toxicology reports came back negative. There were no signs of foul play, no forced entry, no indication of a struggle. And just like that, the tragedy of Gene Hackman's passing deepened, becoming shrouded in an unsettling, almost impenetrable mystery. As tributes began to pour in from across Hollywood and around the globe, celebrating the extraordinary life and career of Gene Hackman, one name resonated with particular significance: Clint Eastwood. Hackman and Eastwood. two towering figures, two iconic presences in the cinematic landscape. While not known to be close confidants, their paths had intersected, most notably in Unforgiven, the 1992 Western masterpiece that swept the Oscars. It was this very project, Unforgiven, that now cast a new, poignant light on their relationship. Speaking recently, reflecting on his experience directing Hackman in Unforgiven, Eastwood shared a surprising, almost prophetic anecdote. "I'd known Gene for many years," Eastwood revealed, his voice tinged with a hint of melancholy. "But we had never worked together until Unforgiven. And he was in a mood at that time. He told me, 'I don't want to do any more violent pictures. I'm tired of it. I've been involved with too many of them.'" The revelation hung in the air, heavy with implication. Hackman, the very embodiment of cinematic toughness, the actor who had portrayed some of the most ruthless, uncompromising characters in film history, was weary of violence. Hearing Eastwood's words now, in the wake of Hackman's death, imbues them with a profound, almost haunting resonance. Hackman wasn't just stepping away from Hollywood, from the relentless demands of the industry. He was stepping away from something deeper, something more profound, something that had seemingly weighed heavily on his soul for years. But why did Clint Eastwood choose this asterisk moment to share this intimate detail? Why now, after so many years of silence, did he decide to unveil this unexpected facet of Gene Hackman's inner world? And why does it feel like Eastwood's words are just the tip of a much larger, much more complex story? Gene Hackman's exit from Hollywood was as understated, as enigmatic as the man himself. No splashy farewells, no sentimental press tours, no grand pronouncements. He simply vanished, a phantom limb in the industry landscape, leaving behind a legacy of unforgettable performances and a lingering sense of unanswered questions. And now, with Clint Eastwood's words resurfacing, echoing in the silence left by Hackman's tragic passing, a new layer of intrigue is added to the narrative. Was Hackman's retirement truly just about the natural ebb and flow of age, the weariness of years in the spotlight? Or was there a deeper, more emotionally resonant reason behind his departure? A hidden burden, a silent struggle that remained, until now, largely unseen, largely unspoken. Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, in their secluded Santa Fe haven, had cultivated a life of quietude, a deliberate retreat from the relentless clamor of Hollywood. Far from the flashing lights and constant scrutiny, they sought peace, anonymity, solace. But when the news of their deaths broke, the tranquility of their chosen sanctuary was shattered by a wave of unanswered questions, a torrent of speculation. It wasn't merely the fact of their passing that resonated with such unsettling force. It was the asterisk. The circumstances surrounding their deaths, the details emerging from the initial investigation, painted a perplexing, almost surreal picture. The discovery of their lifeless bodies alongside their German shepherd, found near Betsy in the bathroom closet, while their other two dogs remained unharmed, was a detail that defied easy explanation, a macabre tableau that fueled the growing sense of unease. Upon arriving at the scene, deputies noted an unsettling stillness, a sense of sudden cessation, as if whatever had befallen the Hackmans had struck swiftly, unexpectedly, without warning. There were no signs of a violent struggle, no evidence of forced entry, nothing to definitively point towards foul play. Yet an intangible sense of wrongness, a nagging feeling that something crucial remained hidden, lingered in the air. Investigators meticulously pursued every avenue, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for answers. They diligently checked for carbon monoxide leaks, a plausible, if mundane, explanation. Toxicology reports were ordered, forensic examinations meticulously conducted, all in a desperate attempt to unravel the mystery. They even explored the possibility of poisoning, searching for any trace of external substances. But each test, each analysis, yielded the same frustrating result: negative. The cause of death remained stubbornly elusive, a blank space in the narrative, deepening the enigma surrounding the Hackmans' final hours. Then a breakthrough, a technological whisper from beyond the grave: Gene Hackman's pacemaker. The device, implanted to regulate his heartbeat, had inadvertently recorded the precise moment his heart ceased to function. February 17th, 9 days before their bodies were discovered. The timeline shifted, the narrative subtly altered. Jean, it seemed, had died first. Betsy, in good health, still vibrant and active, had likely passed away sometime afterward. But the why remained stubbornly unanswered. Why Betsy? Why the dog? Had she succumbed to a sudden illness in the devastating aftermath of losing her beloved Jean? Had she, in the depths of grief and solitude, simply given up, her will to live extinguished by the absence of her life partner, the man she had devoted decades of her life to? The thought was heartbreaking, a poignant testament to the profound bond they shared. Those who knew Jean and Betsy intimately had observed a subtle, yet discernible shift in their lives long before this final tragic chapter. Once a vibrant, active man, known for his love of cycling and his engaging presence, Jean had gradually withdrawn, his world shrinking, his energy fading. About a year prior to his death, he had stopped riding his beloved bike, a symbolic relinquishing of an activity that once defined his vitality. Together, Jean and Betsy had slowly, almost imperceptibly, retreated from their social circles, gently distancing themselves from friends, declining visitors, seemingly content in their shared isolation, their quiet companionship. It wasn't a sudden, dramatic withdrawal, but a gradual, almost melancholic fade from the world, a shared descent into a private realm. Betsy, ever devoted, ever steadfast, had become Jean's unwavering anchor, tirelessly tending to his needs, encouraging him to remain engaged, to hold on to life with whatever strength he could muster. Despite her valiant efforts, despite her unwavering love and support, Jean had grown progressively weaker, his light dimming, his spirit fading. And through it all, Betsy had remained faithfully by his side, a silent guardian, a loving presence in his diminishing world. The news of their deaths resonated with a profound sense of loss, a collective mourning that extended far beyond Hollywood's gilded gates. For many, Gene Hackman represented more than just an actor. He was a cinematic touchstone, a living legend. His career, spanning decades, was a tapestry woven with iconic roles that had defined an era of filmmaking. He could seamlessly inhabit the skin of a ruthless detective, a paranoid surveillance expert, a weary outlaw, each character brought to life with unparalleled brilliance, each performance leaving an indelible mark. But unlike so many of his Hollywood contemporaries, Gene Hackman actively shunned the spotlight, recoiling from the relentless glare of fame. He was famously reclusive, famously averse to interviews, never seduced by the glitz and glamour that defined the Hollywood machine. He acted out of a deep, intrinsic love for the craft, a profound dedication to storytelling, and walked away without fanfare, without regret. When he felt his time had come, when he felt his purpose had been fulfilled, tributes poured forth, a collective outpouring of grief and admiration from every corner of the industry. Francis Ford Coppola, who had directed Hackman in the seminal The Conversation, shared a deeply personal message, lauding him as a true artist who imbued every role with an unforgettable, deeply authentic realism. Morgan Freeman, his longtime friend and co-star in Unforgiven, stood on the Oscar stage, his voice thick with emotion, and declared, "This week, our community lost a giant, and I lost a dear friend." Freeman spoke of their enduring friendship, of Hackman's unwavering commitment to the craft, his utter disinterest in fame, his sole pursuit of great work. Mel Brooks, who had famously collaborated with Hackman on the comedic masterpiece Young Frankenstein, reminded the world that Hackman's brilliance extended beyond the realm of dramatic intensity. He was, Brooks insisted, hilarious too. His unforgettable portrayal of the blind hermit in Young Frankenstein, a role that Hackman himself had actively sought, begging his close friend Gene Wilder for the opportunity to explore his comedic talents, proved Brooks's point with resounding success. Dustin Hoffman, a friend since their formative years at acting school, shared a poignant anecdote that felt almost too fitting, too symbolically resonant. Both had studied at the prestigious Pasadena Playhouse, but while Hoffman's career trajectory soared, Hackman was unceremoniously expelled, deemed not fitting the mold, not possessing the conventional qualities deemed necessary for success. Ironically, It was precisely this rejection, this refusal to conform, that ultimately defined Hackman's singular genius, that propelled him to become not just a star, but a transformative force in acting itself. Nathan Lane, his co-star in the beloved comedy The Birdcage, eloquently captured Hackman's captivating duality, describing him as thoughtful and soulful, with just a hint of danger. And isn't that precisely the enigmatic essence that made Gene Hackman so utterly, so perpetually captivating? He wasn't a performer who relied on theatrical bombast or flashy histrionics. His power lay in a quiet intensity, a subtle yet undeniable presence that could shift effortlessly from terrifying menace to heartbreaking vulnerability, from wry humor to profound sorrow, often within the same scene, often with just a flicker of his piercing gaze. Viola Davis, a self-professed longtime admirer of his work, lauded Hackman's unparalleled ability to portray tough characters without ever losing their humanity, a testament to his profound depth and nuanced understanding of the human condition. Tom Hanks, in a succinct yet powerfully resonant tribute, summed up Hackman's unique, irreplaceable place in cinematic history. There has never been a Gene Hackman type. There has only ever been Gene Hackman. Even actors who had never shared a set with him felt the profound weight of his absence. Josh Brolin, who had grown up mesmerized by Hackman's performances, wrote movingly about the indelible impact he had made, emphasizing how rare it was to find an actor like him. Gene Hackman, Brolin observed, didn't follow trends or try to fit in. He just did what he did best, and that, quite simply, was enough. For a man who had chosen to spend his final years far from the clamor of Hollywood, seeking solace in quietude and anonymity, Gene Hackman's passing left a massive, gaping void in the entertainment world. His extraordinary body of work would undoubtedly endure, a testament to his unparalleled talent, but his physical absence, the silencing of that singular voice, resonated with a profound sense of loss, a palpable void that could never truly be filled. And just as the world began to grapple with the finality of his departure, Clint Eastwood, another Hollywood titan, another legend forged in the crucible of cinematic history, and a longtime, if somewhat complicated friend of Hackman's, finally broke his silence. What he revealed about Gene Hackman, in the hushed tones of remembrance, in the quiet reflections of a contemporary and colleague, was something that no one, in their wildest speculations, could have ever truly expected. In 1971, on the sun-drenched set of The Beguiled, two distinct acting galaxies collided. It wasn't a cataclysmic event, no fiery explosions of ego, no dramatic walkouts, no screaming matches echoing across the soundstage. Instead, it was a subtle, almost imperceptible tension that permeated the air, an unspoken divergence in approach, a fundamental difference in artistic philosophy. One actor, Clint Eastwood, was the embodiment of minimalist grace, a master of understatement, believing that a single, carefully calibrated glance could convey volumes, that less was always unequivocally more. The other, Gene Hackman, was a fervent believer in the power of depth, in the relentless pursuit of character complexity, in the necessity of peeling back every layer, every nuance, until the very core of a role was laid bare, raw, and exposed. And when these two fundamentally opposing mindsets converged, the resulting dynamic, while not overtly confrontational, was, to put it mildly, not exactly harmonious, not precisely a symphony of creative synergy. At the time, Clint Eastwood was still navigating the transition from television's iconic cowboy to Hollywood leading man, honing his signature style, his minimalist aesthetic. Less is more wasn't just a catchphrase for Eastwood, it was a guiding principle, a fundamental tenet of his acting philosophy. He eschewed lengthy, emotionally overwrought monologues, distrusted theatrical displays of emotion, believing that a well-timed pause, a subtle shift in expression, perhaps just a slight squint of the eyes, could convey more than pages of dialogue, more than histrionic displays of raw feeling. Gene Hackman, in stark contrast, thrived on complexity, reveling in the intricate layers of character, embracing the challenge of unraveling the psychological threads that drove his roles. He wasn't content with simply playing a character. He sought to inhabit their very being, to understand their motivations, their innermost desires, their hidden vulnerabilities. While Eastwood instinctively grasped the essence of a character, relying on raw talent and inherent charisma, Hackman approached acting as a craft, a rigorous discipline that demanded constant dissection, relentless refinement, meticulous exploration. To Eastwood, Hackman's methodical approach might have felt like an unnecessary overcomplication, an intellectual indulgence that detracted from the immediacy and impact of performance. To Hackman, Eastwood's seemingly effortless style might have appeared almost too casual, too reliant on instinct, lacking the intellectual rigor and emotional depth that he so prized in his own work. But what truly makes this story so compelling, so enduringly fascinating, isn't merely the clash of two distinct acting styles, the divergence of two equally valid artistic philosophies. It's the understanding that both Eastwood and Hackman, in their own unique, often contrasting ways, were undeniably *right*. Eastwood's minimalist approach, his economy of expression, propelled him to become one of the most iconic and enduring actors of his generation, a symbol of rugged individualism and understated charisma. Hackman's deep-dive, layered performances, his relentless pursuit of psychological truth, earned him some of the most memorable and critically acclaimed roles in film history, solidifying his reputation as a true acting chameleon, a master of his craft. Their early interactions on the set of The Beguiled, while not igniting an immediate lifelong friendship, inadvertently laid the groundwork for something far more complex, far more enduring than mere camaraderie. As the years unfurled, as their individual careers ascended to stratospheric heights, both men carved out distinctly separate paths, charting their own courses through the ever-shifting currents of Hollywood. Eastwood, driven by an insatiable creative ambition, seamlessly transitioned beyond acting, stepping confidently behind the camera to direct a string of critically acclaimed and commercially successful films: Million Dollar Baby, Gran Torino, American Sniper, proving time and time again his multifaceted genius, his unwavering relevance. Hackman, remaining steadfastly focused on his craft, continued to seek out roles that challenged him, that pushed him to explore the furthest reaches of his talent, consistently delivering performances that cemented his legacy as one of the most versatile and respected actors of his generation. Though their professional trajectories diverged, though their paths rarely crossed in later years, the unspoken dynamic, the underlying tension that had simmered beneath the surface during their early collaboration, remained, a silent thread connecting two Hollywood titans. They weren't often spotted together, their names rarely uttered in the same breath, their once tangible connections seemingly fading into the vast expanse of Hollywood history. It wasn't a dramatic falling out, no public acrimony, no bitter recriminations, just the quiet, inexorable drift of time, the natural divergence of lives moving in different directions, pursuing different passions, following different stars. But still, one can't help but wonder, when Clint Eastwood, now in the twilight of his own legendary career, looks back across the vast panorama of his life, across the decades of cinematic triumphs and personal milestones, does he ever, in the quiet moments of reflection, feel the absence of the man who once stood beside him, the man who challenged him, the man who, in his own unique and often contrasting way, pushed him to be better? Clint Eastwood's tribute to Gene Hackman, delivered in the hushed tones of remembrance, wasn't just a perfunctory acknowledgement, a few polite platitudes offered out of obligation. It was deeply personal, genuinely heartfelt, a poignant reminder of the profound impact Gene Hackman had wielded, not just on Eastwood's own career, but on the very fabric of Hollywood itself. "We all know Gene's performances were legendary," Eastwood stated, his voice low, resonant with a lifetime of experience. But what set him apart was the heart and soul he poured into every role. He was dedicated, humble, and according to Clint, one of the 3 greatest actors ever. This wasn't mere lip service. This wasn't casual praise tossed off for public consumption. This was a profound, deeply considered assessment, a weighty pronouncement from one cinematic giant about another, a testament to a shared history, a shared respect, a shared understanding of the demanding, often contradictory nature of their chosen craft. But Eastwood's tribute didn't end with conventional accolades, with standard expressions of grief and admiration. He subtly shifted the narrative, adding a disquieting detail, a cryptic observation that injected a sudden chill into the otherwise somber remembrance. He mentioned, almost as an aside, that the front door of Gene Hackman's Santa Fe home had been found left open. For anyone familiar with Gene Hackman's intensely private nature, his fiercely guarded personal life, the detail felt jarringly out of place, deeply incongruous. The idea that Hackman, a man known for his meticulousness, his almost obsessive attention to detail, would simply leave his home unsecured, his sanctuary vulnerable, felt fundamentally, instinctively wrong. And Clint Eastwood, a man whose own instincts are as sharp as a honed blade, clearly sensed something amiss, something deeply suspicious in this seemingly minor detail. Was it merely an innocent oversight? A careless mistake in the midst of a tragic event? Or did this seemingly insignificant detail hint at something far more disturbing, far more sinister? An intruder? Foul play? The questions hung heavy in the air, unanswered, unsettling, casting a long, dark shadow over the already tragic passing of Gene Hackman. It's the kind of question that lingers, that gnaws at the edges of understanding, that refuses to be dismissed, long after the initial shock of loss has begun to subside. What asterisk do asterisk, you think? Was it simply an open door, a tragic accident, a quiet farewell? Or is there a darker, more complex truth lurking beneath the surface, a hidden story yet to be unveiled? Let's delve into the shadows, explore the unspoken, and discuss the enigma of Eastwood and Hackman in the comments below. Your thoughts, your theories, your perspectives are now a crucial part of this unfolding Hollywood mystery.